Do a presentation on this to a lot of you, some of you, a lot of you, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was. Now I've got a projector connected to a laptop, so I'm going to go and hit slides on that laptop. So I'm going to just keep meandering through here. If Mrs. Trumper, you want to move to your right a couple inches, that'll probably give me enough space here. Okay, so my name is Quinten Weeks. I work together with Corporal Amelia Hayden at the RCMP. Corporal Hayden took over from Jen Allen, who was a pretty familiar name here in the Valley as the media liaison lady for the RCMP. She's now retired, and Amelia has taken over. As you can see, I'm the president of Crimestoppers. Lee Omalusik, who is also a retired Mountie, is the vice president. Brenda Sayers is our secretary-treasurer. And we have a number of board members: Kurt Meyer, Fran Davies, Chris Millar, and it is growing, so there's more people coming to the club. By way of introduction, I work at a Nanaimo. I live and I work in Nanaimo. I am a father of a 22-month-old little girl, and I have a little boy on the way due in December. I had no idea it would be as much fun as it is. I probably laughed more in the past 2 years than I did in the 10 years leading up to it. It's so much fun. I am a consultant with Investors Group, which is how I came to be president of the Crimestoppers chapter here in the Valley. Adjacent to my desk is a gentleman by the name of Chuck Campbell, who is a retired Mountie, and he heads up the Nanaimo detachment of Nanaimo Crimestoppers Society. So he turned to me one day and he said, "Look, the Alberni Valley, you used to work there, as I did, and their president has passed away. The society has gone into administrative leave, let's call it. Do you want to go and resurrect it?" I said, "You know what, that sounds like an interesting project. I'm going to go do that." So here I jumped in around 2012. We rebuilt the society from the ground up with advice from people who had belonged to the former society, and pulled together a board of directors, which has gone through a couple of small changes. Most recently, as Linda said, we lost one of our primary fundraisers, a name that's familiar to you all. This is Joanne Asher. And the wonderful thing about Joanne was that when she approached people for funding, they couldn't say no. She just kind of bulldogged them into giving us things, which was great. So I'm really sorry to see her, to not have her anymore. So starting in 2012, we gave it a new name. It was the Port Alberni Crimestoppers Society. It's now Alberni Valley. We've got new society status. I mean, this is now not so new anymore. We got that, I think, around 2013 or beginning of 2014. Obviously, new leadership. We've got some new ideas in there, new energy, and we're still, the core of what we do remains the same, which is fighting crime. So a couple of rhetorical questions for you. Who knows what Crimestoppers is or does, and who knows what the toll-free telephone number is? And this is one of the challenges that we face to get out to society at large about what we do and how we work, what the toll-free number is. So that is, the underlying ground of what we do as a society is trying to get the word out there and make sure that everybody knows that we're a household name and what we do. So at the end of this presentation, what Crimestoppers really does: a little Crimestoppers history, Crimestoppers International National, and the local chapter of Alberta Valley. We are a group of community-minded volunteers. Our simple mandate is to help the police solve crime. Now, it's easy to say, not so easy to do. We have, as I already mentioned, we have 6 members of the public that form the board of directors, and we have Amelia Hayden from the RCMP. So our chief role is organizing and administering the program through meetings. So we meet once a month here at the Morton Street Police Station. We determine rewards. So when a crime comes in, a tip comes in, it's generated by somebody from the public calling the 1-800-222-TIPS phone number, 1-800-222-TIPS. They call it up and they say, "I know of X who has done something against the law, Y." They have complete anonymity when they make that phone call. There's no tracking software. There's no following up. They give any name they want. They say the Mickey Mouse calling in. Based on that tip then gets pushed through to the RCMP, and the RCMP then have an opportunity to act on that tip, or at least follow up on it. So determining the rewards is part of our role as the board. How big are the rewards? They can range anywhere from $50 to the maximum of $2,000. Recruiting, so as the board evolves, people fall away, natural attrition, we recruit new people to come in and fill that space. Training and conferences is also part of what we do. So Crimestoppers is very active on a global scale. British Columbia wide, it's very active as well. So there's conferences where you can go and learn about how other communities are doing things, what their successes are, and take away ideas that we can bring back to the valley. Raising money to pay for tips, that's one of the big challenges. Raising public awareness is a work in progress. I think we're definitely taking steps in the right direction. And assisting police wherever possible. Public events obtain anonymous tips, as I already mentioned. Crimestoppers history, very briefly. It started with a gentleman by the name of Craig McAleese, who was a police officer in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1976. What spurred him to create Crimestoppers, and what was then the sort of original model for Crimestoppers, there was a very heinous murder on Christmas at a gas station. So the gentleman was working the night shift at the gas station, somebody came in, robbed him, and shot him. The police, went and looked into to try and solve this murder, and pursued every single possible lead. And they felt, even though they didn't find anything, that somebody in the public probably had some information that could be of assistance to them. So Greg McAleese started a program. He put up his own money and offered a reward. He went public, he went on television and said, look, here's this reward. We're looking for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of somebody related to this crime. Well, sure enough, it was successful. He wanted to change people's attitudes about reporting and apathy. So one of the big goals was to get the community more involved. Instead of just having the police do all the dirty work and everybody else just kind of, okay, goes about their daily business, he wanted the members of the community to step forward and say, hey, we know something, or we have suspicions of something where we saw something. And he wanted to provide a way for those people to step forward and say, here's what I know, without the stigma of being a snitch or ratting somebody out, and those things that go along with it. So we want to change that way of thinking. So we devised cash rewards and complete anonymity. So you can call in and give your name as Mickey Mouse and nobody will ever know who you are. No court, no police interviews. So there was as a result of this, there was a sudden increase in arrests, and they noticed a drop in the crime rate because most of the crimes are perpetrated by whatever the stat is, 10% to 100%, 10% of the population, or 5% of the population do 95% of the crimes. I'm not exactly sure what that statistic is, but it's a high ratio like that. So they get an increase in arrests, there's a decrease in the crime rate. The media became involved because of his success. He'd stepped forward and now for his own money. That was a good news story. And so they expanded it to the Unsolved Crime of the Week. So local media then every week would put up an unsolved crime and with looking for tips to try and help crack the case. And that evolved with the program we know today, including posting wanted individuals on the website. So a quick history, in 1976 it started in New Mexico with McAleese. It spread to the entire United States by 1979. So in 3 years it was that successful that it had gone across the country. Over 1,000 Crimestoppers programs in the world today in 21 countries. Crimestoppers International formed in 1984. And there were members in Canada, the States, Caribbean, South Africa, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Poland, Israel, and, oddly enough, Guam. So the first Canadian program started in Calgary in 1982. It then spread quickly to Edmonton, Victoria, Vancouver, Toronto. By 1994, BC Crimestoppers, which is the provincial overarching organization, was formed, and that's who we answer to. They also are the driving force between the TipSoft software. So there's a sophisticated software that goes along with these anonymous tips that sorts things out to who goes to where. It's rather than having the software in every single community, they have a central location. People call in, it gets directed, in our case, to Victoria, and is then disseminated from Victoria. So that software splits up where that information has to go, or what detachment, what community it'll go to. And then Port Alberni Crimestoppers was created in 2000. It then went dormant from about 2007 to about beginning of 2012. So about 5 years.
Wow.
It kind of slowed right down and didn't really do much. And now we're sort of very active again. In 1993, all the RCMP divisions were involved. Alberni Valley continues to enjoy support from the local detachment. That support is interesting to me because the RCMP are really interested in keeping Crimestoppers going. I didn't really realize that. I sort of thought it was member-driven, from the community wants a safer place to live, and the RCMP kind of come along with it. But actually, the RCMP are very, very motivated to keep Crimestoppers going. It's a very successful tool for them. So probably the most effective community-based crime-solving tool. So what we found is when we were starting up, we ran out of money for things. The RCMP did step forward and say, yeah, we'll cover that expense for you, just to keep you guys going. We want you to keep going. So that was interesting to me, a learning experience for me for sure. Quick look at our website. The wanted page is under construction. When it's completed, it will list the names and photographs of anyone who police are actively looking for. So we did have that in place. The problem is that because we were new, we didn't have somebody who's an IT specialist or who could program the website. What we ended up having was wanted pictures up there that had gone past their due by date. So you can't have somebody who has been processed and is back out on the streets and have them there as most wanted. It was a legal liability. So we just got in there, we wiped all that out, but we want to have that back. So there are people that the Mounties are looking for, specifically that have warrants for their arrest or who may be suspects in crimes that have taken place. And we will, when we're up and running and have this website, the people trained up as they should be, will be a lot more fluid. So we can put a picture up and then 24 hours after there's a conviction or the person's proven innocent or whatever, we can move that picture away and not have that legal liability. New on the website also is tip submission. So there's now a digital way that you can do it. You can click a button on the website and submit a tip electronically and anonymously, which is great. It used to be you had to call in the 1-800-222-TIPS. Now they've got the online, and they're starting to, some of the Crimestoppers communities or boards are starting to come up with social media ways that you can go in through Facebook or through Twitter. We're not there yet. We're just getting some people up to speed in managing the website. So here's the home page for Alberni Valley Crimestoppers. What you see here is recent crimes. The resolution from this close is really poor. You might have a better vision from back there, but different areas where they happened, the different crimes. We have here people that are missing in unsolved cases, and then we have crime maps for Port Alberni. So the crime maps is very popular. What happens with the crime maps is you click on the link of an area or a neighborhood where you might live or where you're interested in purchasing a house or where your friends live. And that will bring up a map that looks like this. So this is central Port Alberni. Here you have your key. There's drug activity. What else does that say? Maybe if I look down here I can see better. Drug activity, auto theft, break and enter, mischief, and they're color-coded. So you can see what happened in the past week and where. And actually there's, as you can see, quite a bit of activity on these maps. So these maps are updated on a weekly basis. If you're thinking about moving to a new neighborhood and you want to know, is there a lot of crime or yeah, what's on here, that information is available on the Crimestoppers website.
So where does that information come from?
The Mounties.
Okay.
So if they have, somebody calls it a crime, you know, there was a spate of automobile break-and-enters from Monday to Wednesday of last week. That will show up as, you know, a number of different dots, which are color-coded. I think it was yellow I saw. Auto theft from auto is the blue dots. So that'll show up as a series of blue dots on the map. And different parts of town have different maps. So I just chose, because we're located in this area, I chose this map for this presentation. And this is current. I downloaded this off the website today.
So anything reported, any call that comes in, any reported
That's correct.
activity?
That's correct. Now, if it's unreported and a Mountie is driving by at 1 o'clock in the morning and catches kids vandalizing the school, for instance, that would show up here as well.
Okay.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be reported. It can be something that's unfolding, you know, with the Mounties happen to stumble on it or however it comes to their attention.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised the area.
We are an award-winning website. We're now striving to get that designation back. We do want to have a website that is something that people visit frequently, to provide information on it that's of interest to the community. The maps in particular, I think, do that. But also, if you have a house down the street that you think might be a crack house, or there might be some sort of problems going on there, that you can look on here and see what exactly is happening in that area. We are hosted by and are partners with some of these organizations. So they pay a fee to have an ad, a banner ad up on our website, and that fee goes to the administration. Some of the costs that we face obviously are the tips. Now, we had last month in August, we had a $1,000 tip payout, which is an attempted murder. It's probably one of the higher. It's the highest tip we've paid out so far. As you can imagine, $1,000 to complete the accounts fairly quickly. Our insurance is $700, and we have a number of other administrative costs that go along with just running the society. Yeah.
So, do you decide the payout after a conviction, and you can link the conviction directly to the tip?
No, you don't. They do not have to have a conviction. If a person calls in a tip, and that leads to an arrest, that is enough to warrant a tip payout. What happens is the tip comes to the board's attention. So Corporal Hayden, Amelia, will come into the meeting and say, this is the crime, this is what transpired and when it transpired. Here's what the tip software recommends as a payout. The board then discusses that and says, yep, that's too high, no, that's too low, or that's just about right. So when we make that decision, we then put the money into an envelope. That envelope then goes to a business in town, and that business is notified that somebody by the name of Mickey Mouse, whatever the name was that they gave when they called that tip in, will be calling that business to come and pick up the reward. Christine McGee, let's say, Sleep Country, Canada. So Christine McGee is going to come into X business sometime this week to collect that money, and all he or she needs to do is identify themselves as Christine McGee, and they will get that envelope and they leave. So there's no questions asked, nothing, they just get the envelope, and that's how the tip is dispersed. Yeah.
Quinten, the crime map was interesting too, and you mentioned that it's updated weekly, and it's basically that's a short period of time to see a trend or what really a neighborhood might be like in a week. You might not get the right idea in a week. So can you scroll backwards and see previous weeks, or go back and get an idea of trends?
Now, if I had, I would pull that up for you right now, but I don't. This is a banking computer, and for me to get online, I've got to go through 4 firewalls, which is going to take me about, I don't know, this time next year to do. So I can't do that. I don't know. Off the top of my head, what I would recommend then is just go to the website. Yeah, take it for a test drive. See if you can see what you can find. We do aspire to be a provincial award-winning program. We're looking forward to developing the program in new relationships. So an example of that would be working with the high school. It just escapes me right now. The name of Alberni ADSS. Thank you. ADSS. It was the acronym I was looking for, ADSS. So we're looking at working with ADSS more for just to get the word out there so students are very familiar with what we do and how to call in. One of the challenges with the RCMP is we don't want to be in a situation where students are calling in because so-and-so had erasers and pencils stolen from his locker, suspected. So it's a little bit of, it has to be fairly organic about how we do this, and so it's a work in progress. We're also thinking about expanding to include Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, which would be Tofino, Ucluelet, and anywhere between here and there, and possibly up to Banfield. So it's on our radar. That's not something we've jumped into or tackled just yet, because it requires a lot more organization. We need people out there and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's on our radar going forward, I suppose. New ideas. Generation-wise, social networking, Facebook and YouTube, we would like to get caught up with some of the cutting-edge programs that are doing that stuff, and it will come in time. So what's on the horizon? Well, I've got happy faces next to things that we've made a lot of progress with. City vehicle bumper stickers, I think actually Ken Watson was instrumental in that. Crime of the Week. We're doing a Crime of the Week segment on the radio. So that's already been going on, I think, for about 18 months, 14 to 18 months. So bringing that media engagement in is a big part of what we're doing, and I know that we're working from time to time with you guys as well.
We're running one every week.
Exactly. There we go.
Same one as on the radio.
Okay. So we do have these media engagement things. Now, I put happy faces next to them because we made a lot of progress with that. It is, however, an ongoing thing where we want to become a household name as much as possible, not just with the demographic who's old enough to remember it from the past and grasp the concept very easily, but also with the younger up-and-coming demographic. Bus stop signs, strategic city locations. Really, it's about getting, like I said, being as visible as possible. So whether it's a bus stop sign or some sort of billboard or something, I don't know. I know the billboards are controversial, so maybe we'll steer well clear of those, but bus stop signs might be a way to go. And then fundraising. Fundraising is a big one for us. We want to be in a position where if we get a $2,000 tip, and then 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later we get another one for $1,000 or $1,500, then we're not totally scrambling trying to get the money together, or even worse, leaving somebody hanging because we haven't got the money. Tips are calling in. So fundraising is a big part of what we do. We do tag days. We did this year. Salmon Fest. We had a booth. We did a raffle. So there are a number of different things. Investors Group has also just pumped $650 into the program. So we are marketing and fundraising as much as we can to get the money together. Food for thought: when people begin to protect themselves as individuals and not as a community, the battle against crime is effectively lost. And that's kind of the underlying message with the original reason why Crimestoppers was started. It's make the whole community engaged. 1-800-222-TIPS. What's that? Any questions? I spoke really quickly. I know I did it because we have a limited amount of time.
And then your fundraising, everything that's raised locally, does it stay here locally?
It stays absolutely local. It does not go out of the community.
So if you require more funding, if say you had a couple tips you had to pay out, can you source funds elsewhere?
In an emergency, we would probably turn to Nanaimo. Nanaimo has the deepest pockets, so we would see if we could borrow off of that. Yeah. So the tip software, it's funny because as we've come online, gradually more and more expenses have come that were being shouldered by by Nanaimo, basically. So the TipSoft software has an annual membership fee that you have to pay in order to use it. It's just come to light that we haven't been paying and we got to start paying. So again, there's another $700 a year. So it just, as time passes, as we get more, then we have a monthly expense for bus stop benches, as an example. As you get bigger, costs begin to accrue, and it becomes a monthly thing where you're paying to maintain marketing of some kind or another. Any other questions? Good.
Well, Quinten, on behalf of the club, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. It's something a lot of times you hear about Crimestoppers and then all of a sudden you forget about it. So with your presentation today and some of the media contacts you're doing right now, I think you've become more aware of people, especially the map. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah,
So I think I'll be bringing it up on the internet to check out, see what's going on. I think I live in a good neighborhood. Anyway,
Thank you very much for having me.
Very.